The house on 657 Boulevard stood like a dream. 3 stories tall, perfectly symmetrical, with red brick chimneys, white shutters, and ivy clinging to its sides as though the vines themselves refused to let go. Derek and Maria Weston couldn't believe it was theirs. It was early summer when they closed the deal. The kids, Emily, age 8, Nathan, 5, and baby Chloe, ran across the freshly mowed lawn, their laughter echoing under the golden evening light. Maria imagined birthday parties in the backyard, Christmas lights on the porch, and slow Sunday mornings in the breakfast nook. Derek, on the other hand, was thinking about the mortgage. It was steep, but manageable. Barely. They hadn't moved in yet. Renovations were needed, new countertops, a coat of paint, some outdated wiring. They visited the house every other day to supervise the contractors, and it was on one of those evenings that Derek found the letter. There was no stamp, no return address, just a plain white envelope addressed in a shaky hand. To the new owner. Curious, Derek opened it on the porch. "Dearest new neighbor at 657 Boulevard, allow me to welcome you to the neighborhood. I've been watching the house for decades now, and as of today, I see it is finally ready for new blood." He paused, frowning. Was this a joke? Do you know the history of the house? It craves young blood. It needs it. That's why you're here, isn't it? To feed the house what it wants? You've already begun renovating. Tsk, tsk. You shouldn't change it. Not yet. Not before I know what lies within you. Derek felt his skin tighten. The words weren't just eerie, they felt invasive, too intimate. He flipped to the bottom. I will be watching, always. The Watcher. For a long moment he just stood there. The wind rustled the hedges. A contractor shouted something from the backyard, but all Derek could hear was a low hum in his ears, like pressure building in his head. He stuffed the letter back in the envelope and walked straight inside, locking the door behind him even though it wasn't necessary. He sat at the dining table, the only piece of furniture in the house so far, and read the letter again. Then again. Who the hell would write this? Maria arrived 15 minutes later with dinner. When he showed her the letter, she went pale. "This is some psycho. What do you mean, young blood? Our kids?" "I don't know," Derek said. "Probably some sick prank, maybe one of the neighbors." That night, Derek couldn't sleep. Every time he closed his eyes, he imagined someone watching from the trees. Every creak of the old house sounded like footsteps. He replayed the phrase, "I will be watching," over and over in his mind. The next morning, he took the letter to the Westfield Police Department. Detective Hugo Klein read it with narrowed eyes. "This isn't the first weird thing I've seen from this neighborhood," he muttered. Derek leaned in. "So you think it's serious?" "I think someone out there knows more than they should. That's what concerns me. They mentioned renovations. Did you tell anyone about your plans?" "No one but the contractors. And a few neighbors, casually." "Keep this quiet for now," Klein advised. "If they send another letter, bring it straight to me." As Derek left the station, a sinking feeling grew in his gut. He didn't know what disturbed him more, the letter itself, or the fact that someone, somewhere, knew they had children and was watching them. That evening, Derek stood outside the house, scanning the street. The neighborhood looked peaceful. Cherry trees lined the sidewalks, lawn sprinklers hissed gently in the yards, and curtains fluttered in open windows. But someone was watching. Somewhere behind one of those windows, or from a darkened car down the road, or maybe even from the woods behind the house, the Watcher was there, watching, waiting. And the Westons had only just arrived. The Westons tried to dismiss the first letter as a prank, but something lingered, an unease that clung to the walls of 657 Boulevard like mildew. Derek changed the locks. Maria kept the children away from the house, insisting they stay with her sister until things felt safe. A week passed with silence. No new letter. No suspicious figures lurking outside. Slowly, Derek began to believe it really was a sick joke, until the second letter arrived. This time it was addressed by name. Mr. and Mrs. Weston, I see you've brought Emily, Nathan, and little Chloe, adorable children, so full of energy. 657. Boulevard is happy to have them. It's been empty too long. It needs life again. Young blood. Maria's scream was sharp and immediate. How do they know their names? She demanded, clutching the letter with trembling hands. No one knows we even plan to move in with them yet. Derek said nothing. He was too busy reading the next lines. Have they started playing in the basement yet? It's cozy down there, though I don't like it. It's too far from the rest of the house. If they scream, no one will hear them. A cold silence fell over them both. That night, Derek walked through every room of the house. He inspected the basement first. The light bulb flickered dimly above him, casting pale orange shadows on the walls. There was a low humming, perhaps the old furnace, and a dampness in the air that made his throat tighten. He imagined his children down here, playing with blocks, giggling at shadows, and then he imagined them screaming. They installed security cameras the next day. Derek also started talking to neighbours, cautiously. The Langfords lived next door, a reclusive family. Michael Langford, in his 60s, had lived there his entire life. He was soft-spoken, polite, but something about his gaze made Derek uneasy. When Derek casually brought up the house's history, Michael's expression froze. The house watches people, he muttered. Always has. What do you mean by that? Michael smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. Nothing. Just old stories. Later, Derek told Maria. I swear he knows something. Or maybe it's him. His house overlooks the front yard. He could have seen the contractors, the kids. They reported him to the police, but without solid evidence, nothing could be done. Another letter came 2 days later. This time, it was longer and crueler. I am pleased to see you're protecting the house. The cameras are a nice touch, but they won't stop me. I see everything, I always have. The windows whisper to me, the walls remember every footstep, every breath. You should know your daughter draws beautiful pictures in the sunroom. Does she always use the red crayon? It's a lovely shade, almost like blood. Maria nearly fainted. They hadn't told anyone Emily had drawn pictures by the window that day. Derek checked the camera footage in a panic. No one was visible near the house. No strange cars, no movement. And yet, someone knew. They stopped coming to the house altogether. Weeks passed. The house sat untouched, its windows staring blankly at the street. But still, the letters came. The watcher was relentless. Some were poetic, others threatening. But all of them ended the same way. I will be watching. The final letter Derek received before summer ended was the worst. You are ungrateful. 657 Boulevard has chosen you and you insult it with silence. You do not appreciate the honor. You should have moved in. You should have let the house take what it needs. Now you've made me angry. And when I'm angry, I make things happen. For the first time, Derek didn't show the letter to Maria. Instead, he locked himself in the car, trembling, reading the letter again and again. The words pulsed with something dark, something ancient, like a presence woven into the very foundation of the house. Whatever the watcher was, it wasn't just a person, it was something more, something that had been waiting far longer than they could imagine. Derek couldn't shake the feeling that the house itself was alive. It was just wood, brick, and glass, he kept telling himself. A structure. Nothing more. But every time he stepped inside 657 Boulevard, whether to check the mail, talk to a contractor, or replace security batteries, he felt watched. Not just from the outside, but within the house. Like it was observing him, listening, waiting. And then the dreams started. In one, Derek wandered through the empty halls of the house calling for Emily. He heard her giggling, always from just around the corner. but no matter how fast he moved, he couldn't reach her. Eventually, he found a crayon drawing on the wall. A red stick figure, arms outstretched, eyes black, smile wide. Beneath it, in a child's shaky scrawl, "I see you." By mid-August, Maria had become a ghost of herself, anxious, withdrawn, and constantly checking on the kids. She barely slept. Chloe had started crying at night for no reason, and Nathan had developed a nervous stutter. They weren't even living in the house, but somehow the house was bleeding into their lives. Desperate for answers, Derek began researching the house's history. 657 Boulevard had been built in 1905 by a wealthy industrialist, Thomas Greaves. A man obsessed with secrecy, Greaves had installed false walls and hidden passageways throughout the house. Rumors claimed he was involved in occult practices, that he believed the house itself was a conduit for an entity he called the Eye. Greaves disappeared in 1932, vanished without a trace inside his own home. His wife was found days later in the attic, claw marks on her face, her eyes gouged out. No one could explain it, and after the house was sold, no one ever mentioned it again. Derek dug deeper, finding old police records and local folklore. Over the decades, multiple residents had reported similar experiences. 1947, a family moved out after just 2 weeks, claiming the house whispered to their children at night. 1965. A boy was found sleepwalking in the backyard at 3 a.m., mumbling, "He's in the walls." 1991. A woman in her 70s hanged herself in the master bedroom. Her note read simply, "I couldn't close my eyes without seeing him." And then he discovered the letters. Dozens of them. Unfiled, forgotten in a dusty archive box at the town's historical society. All unsigned, all written in the same shaky handwriting. The watcher had been writing for decades. That night, Derek sat in the empty living room of 657 Boulevard, surrounded by silence. He placed the old letters side by side with the ones his family had received. The handwriting matched, every swirl, every loop, every aggressive dot of the eyes, but some of the older letters were different. They didn't sound angry, they sounded reverent. 657 is a mouth, and I am its voice. The house sleeps when it's empty, it hungers when it is full. I am not the first watcher, I will not be the last. The realization chilled Derek to the core. It was a role, a title, passed down, maintained, worshipped. Someone had taken it upon themselves to continue the legacy of watching the house, feeding it, fearing it, or worse, serving it. As Derek gathered the papers into a box, he heard something. A soft sound, a whisper. It came from the wall behind him, faint but deliberate. Not the creak of wood or the groan of pipes, but something spoken. He turned and pressed his ear against the plaster. At first, nothing, and then, young blood. He staggered back, heart hammering. No, he must have imagined that. But the air had changed. He could feel it, denser now, charged, like the house knew he was uncovering its secrets. Derek didn't sleep that night. He drove to a hotel on the edge of town and stared at the ceiling until morning. There were questions he didn't want answers to, but couldn't ignore. Who was the original watcher? What was the Eye that Thomas Greaves believed in? And what exactly was buried beneath the floors and walls of 657 Boulevard? He knew one thing for certain now. The house didn't want them gone. It wanted them inside. The next morning, Derek returned to the house alone. He hadn't told Maria. He knew she'd try to stop him. But the whispers, the history, the letters, it was all building to something. He could feel it. He walked through the house in silence, each step echoing louder than it should. The house seemed to listen, its creaks responding like sighs in an old cathedral. Derek paused at the end of the second-floor hallway, where a closet door stood slightly ajar. He hadn't noticed it before. Inside it was just coats and dust until he saw the panel. A wooden square in the back wall, barely noticeable, with small indentations like it had been opened before. His pulse quickened. He pried it loose with his keys. A gust of stale, sour air hit him as the panel dropped, revealing a narrow crawl space beyond. Flashlight in hand, he crouched and crawled inside. It was dark, silent. Wrong. The air pressed in around him like the space itself resented his presence. After 10 feet, the crawl space widened into a small chamber, a hidden room behind the walls. And in that room were boxes, dozens of them. He opened the nearest one. Letters. All addressed to previous owners, all from the Watcher. They went back to the 1950s. Some were written on yellowing paper, others on fragile parchment that cracked as he unfolded them, but the voice was the same. The house watches through me. She sings when blood spills. They won't listen, they never do. In another box, Derek found photographs, grainy black and white pictures of children playing in the yard, families eating dinner, couples kissing on the porch, all taken from the same angle, the same vantage point. Someone had been inside the house all along, watching from within. One of the photos made his stomach drop. It was Emily, sitting in the sunroom, red crayon in hand, taken just 2 weeks ago. Derek backed out of the crawl space, hands shaking. As he slid the panel back into place, something brushed past his shoulder. He spun around. Nothing. But the air smelled different now, like burnt paper and soil, and something else. Blood. He bolted from the closet and into the hallway, only to hear a sound that froze him in place. A creaking floorboard from the 3rd floor, the attic. He didn't want to go up there, but something pulled him. The stairs moaned beneath him. The attic door hung slightly open, as if expecting him. When he pushed it fully, he saw nothing, just dust, old furniture, and cobwebs, until he turned. In the far corner, lit faintly by the window, was a chair, facing the wall, and on the wall, in smeared red crayon, were dozens of phrases written over and over. The eye sees, the eye feeds. Young blood, young blood. They don't hear the whispers, I do, and sitting on the chair, a doll, handmade, threadbare, eyes missing, its mouth sewn shut with black thread. Derek approached slowly. His hand trembled as he reached for the doll. Then he noticed something, a note pinned to its chest, in the same handwriting as the letters, greater than, "You shouldn't have come alone." A loud bang echoed through the house. Derek flinched and ran back downstairs. In the living room, the front door was wide open, but he had locked it. He ran outside and scanned the neighborhood. Empty, quiet. But then he looked back at the house and saw a figure in the attic window. Standing, watching. Back at the hotel, Derek collapsed into a chair covered in sweat and dust. He finally told Maria everything, the hidden room, the letters, the photographs, the doll. She stared at him in horror. "We can't go back there," she whispered. "We can't even sell that place now." "We're not going back," Derek said. "But we have to know what we're dealing with. This isn't just a person, it's something deeper." Maria's eyes filled with tears. "I just want our kids to be safe." Derek nodded, but he couldn't shake the feeling building in his gut. They weren't just being watched anymore, they were being hunted. Derek and Maria kept the children away from the house, but something had already followed them. It began with Emily. She was sitting on the hotel bed, drawing with crayons, when Maria noticed something strange. Every picture was of the house. Not just the outside, but rooms they hadn't even shown her. The crawl space, the attic, the hidden chair, and always the red figure. Faceless, watching. Maria asked her gently, "Sweetie, who is this?" Emily didn't even look up. "The man in the walls," she said. "He told me to draw him." Maria froze. "Who told you that?" Emily frowned like it was obvious. "The one who watches. He's been talking to me at night." Derek looked up sharply from his laptop. "He's what?" Emily blinked, confused. "He whispers. He says the house misses me." That night, Nathan woke up screaming. "There was someone under my bed," he cried. "He was laughing." Maria checked. Nothing. But Nathan kept insisting. "He had no eyes, Mum. He kept saying my name." It was Chloe's turn the next day. She was only 3, but she began repeating a phrase over and over while playing with her toys. "The eye sees, the eye sees." Over and over, like a broken doll. Derek began researching the phrase, "the eye," more seriously. He discovered references to an old cult based in New Jersey in the early 1900s. A secretive group that believed certain locations acted as thin places, portals where the spiritual and physical world overlapped. 657 Boulevard had been one of their meeting points. They believed the house sat atop a spiritual fault line, and that by offering young blood to the eye, they could receive visions, wealth, and protection. It wasn't just a haunting, it was a feeding ground. Derek contacted a retired professor of religious studies, Dr. Leonard Hobb, who had written about cult sites in suburban America. When Derek explained what was happening, the line went silent for a long time. Then Dr. Hobb said, "You need to listen to me carefully. You are not just dealing with an entity. You are dealing with legacy worship. The Watcher is a priest of sorts, maybe one person, maybe many. Once you are chosen by the house, it doesn't forget." "Can we stop it?" Derek asked. A long pause. "Not without sacrifice." Later that night, Derek checked the hotel room door 3 times before lying down. At 3:13 a.m., he woke up to a sound, a whisper, faint, coming from the corner of the room. He sat up. The room was dark. Then slowly, Emily sat up too. Her eyes were open, but blank. She turned her head and whispered, "He says you can't run forever." Then she lay back down, smiling in her sleep. The next morning, a new letter arrived. At the hotel. It was slid under the door during the night. No address. Just a message in familiar handwriting. "She hears me now. They all do. You have brought them closer to the truth. To the house. Why fight it, Derek? Let them become part of it. You were chosen. They were born to feed her." Maria broke down, sobbing. Derek finally said what they were both thinking. "We have to end this." They drove back to 657 Boulevard, one last time. This time, they brought gasoline. If the house wanted them, if it was trying to take their children, they would burn it to the ground. They soaked the floors, the curtains, the basement. Derek stood in the living room, holding the match. He hesitated. Then, a whisper, louder than ever. "Derek!" He spun around. Standing in the hallway was a figure, tall, gaunt, face wrapped in cloth, eyes covered in stitched leather. It didn't move, it just watched. Derek screamed and dropped the match. Flames roared to life. The figure vanished in the smoke. They ran. Outside, Maria clutched the kids while Derek watched the fire consume 657 Boulevard. The house wailed, an actual sound, like screaming timber and hissing rage. It burned for hours. But even after the fire, the letters didn't stop. One came a week later, no return address, just a single sentence. "You can burn the house, but the eye never closes." Every window, every wall consumed. The flames twisted upward like vengeful hands clawing at the sky. Maria had held Chloe, Emily, and Nathan tightly, shielding their eyes from the inferno. Derek had stood frozen, transfixed by the sight of 657 Boulevard finally crumbling into blackened ruin. And yet, even as the last embers glowed in the early morning hours, he knew it wasn't over. A week passed. Then the nightmares returned. This time it wasn't the children. It was Derek. Every night he saw the attic chair, the red writing, the stitched doll, and a voice that whispered to him from beneath the floorboards, "She still breathes in the ashes. The eye sees what you tried to hide." He woke drenched in sweat, gasping, every night at 3:13 a.m., without fail. Emily, once playful and chatty, had grown eerily quiet. She no longer colored. Instead, she would sit still for hours, staring into corners, mumbling to herself. Sometimes she'd tilt her head and whisper, "It's still watching me." Maria broke down one night after Emily drew a picture of the house, burning, but with eyes in the smoke and their family standing in front of it with no faces. "I want to take them and run," Maria said through tears. "Somewhere far, anywhere. We should have never bought that place. We should have never answered that first letter." Derek said nothing, because deep down he knew the house hadn't been the beginning. It had only been the invitation. 2 nights later, Derek was working late in the motel lobby when Nathan came padding in barefoot, eyes glassy. "Nate, buddy, what are you doing up?" Nathan pointed toward the parking lot. "She's calling you," he said. "She says it's almost time." Derek stood quickly. "Who, Nathan?" "The one in the walls," he said softly. "She has a new place now." The next morning, Derek received an email from a burner address. Subject line, "Welcome home." The body of the email was blank, except for a single attachment, a photo. It showed a new house, just built, modern, pristine. But in the upstairs window, a shape could be seen, vague, shadowed, watching. The caption beneath the image read, "You thought she died with the fire. She was only reborn." They moved in with Maria's sister across state lines, new town, new phones, new names on paper. But every few weeks, a letter would find them, always signed, The Watcher. Sometimes it was an envelope under the doormat, sometimes taped to their windshield, sometimes inside the mailbox, no postage, no prints. And the kids? They were changing. Emily sleepwalked now. Nathan had begun scribbling red circles on the walls, and Chloe laughed at night when no one else was awake. Derek had started keeping a journal. One entry simply read, "We didn't escape the house escaped with us." Then in late autumn, Emily vanished, gone from her bed, no door opened, no window broken. They found her hours later, standing in a construction lot on the edge of town, barefoot, and humming a lullaby they didn't recognize. She turned when they called her name and said, "She told me she likes this one better. The walls are new. They won't fight her like the old ones did." Derek stared at the foundation.